chico por lo campo de mi alma.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our IPDAE Tech Tuesday session today, multi-level lesson planning with AI and web-based tools. If you could just post in the chat where you're joining us from. I'm glad you enjoyed that music there, Dylan. I appreciate that. Thanks to the Maharaja Flamenco Trio for that great music. My name is Ramin Yazdan Pana, and my focus is helping us, right? Helping us fellow educators bring research-based and standards-aligned strategies to adult education programs. Everything that we are exploring today is really designed to connect directly to the needs of adult learners and the work that we do every day. These strategies are meant to be practical, flexible, and grounded in instructional design and adult learning theory. So thank you all so much for being here and just really for your commitment to your practice and to your learners. And I'm just seeing here where folks are joining us from. Wow, all the way from New York City, all around Florida, Auburn University, Daytona State College, from the Literacy Alliance of Northeast Florida, all over the world. Seminole State College, great stuff that I've seen you all produce there. Thank you so much for what you do. Rhode Island College, all over the place, all over the USA. So wonderful. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Before we dive in, a quick reminder, please feel free to use the Q&A box for any questions. You can also use the chat, but there's a chance that I might miss it, okay? So you can use the Q&A box for any questions. I will be asking you to continue to engage in the chat. So thank you for getting started. You know, even though that you're in listen-only mode for the session, I'm really going to draw on you for your feedback so I can feel that you're here with me and to get your input as we go along. Just to let you know, everything is being recorded today. So if you'd like to view this presentation later or share it with your colleagues at a later time, the recording will be available on the IPDAE site really within 24 hours, okay, of our session here today. So here are our objectives for today. Today's focus is really designed to be practical and strategic. So we'll be identifying the fundamentals of effective AI prompting and explore web-based tools that support instructional planning, specifically in adult education. The goal is not just to use AI, but of course, use it more intentionally. So we'll be applying iterative prompting strategies, right? So I'll explain more what that means. But we all know that strong results especially with working with AI, for those of us who have worked with it, they rarely come from one prompt. You can get some impressive results, but it's usually not quite enough, right? So we need to refine, clarify, and improve the output through purposeful back and forth iteration, okay? Really dialogue. So we'll evaluate some sample prompts designed specifically for adult ESOL, ABE, and GED instruction. So this will help us to distinguish between generic use of AI and more instructionally sound planning utilizing AI tools. And so finally, we'll practice using structured prompt sentence frames to generate lesson ideas, materials, and feedback tools that can be adapted across multiple proficiency levels. So again, I'll need your input to support this. So please stay tuned. The outcome is to create efficient and aligned planning for multi-level classes. So let me know in the chat with a Y or an N, a yes or a no, or even an M or maybe, if any of these topics are relevant to your work and to your instruction. Let me know in the chat, Y, N, or M. All right. Getting a lot of Y's, a lot of yeses. Good. All right. So we'll begin with the rationale for multi-lesson planning, really why it matters, especially in adult education settings, where proficiency levels vary widely, right? This is more the norm than the exception. Strong planning is really what makes differentiation possible, especially in mixed level classrooms. So We'll also explore human intelligence and interaction to assistive interaction and intelligence iteration cycle. So I call this the high to I cycle. And we'll talk a little bit about that as a framework, really to position AI as a partner in planning, guided by you, right? Guided by educator expertise and really refined through intentional iteration or back and forth discussion. Then we'll look at prompting with purpose. You'll see how concrete examples of multi-level differentiation and how well-designed prompts can generate aligned, adaptable instructional materials. And finally, your voice always matters. It matters to me and to IPDAE. You'll have an opportunity to provide feedback on the session so we can continue to refine and improve the work that we do, just like the iteration cycle we're discussing today, right? We're all learning, we're all growing. And so the idea is to be engaged in our growth, in our exchange, so that that's possible. All right, so let's start by reinforcing why multi-level lesson planning matters. Okay, as we know, mixed proficiency levels are really the reality in the adult education classroom. Okay, and planning for the middle learner can often leave others behind. Those are those that are kind of at the lower end or at the higher end of that, let's say that bell-shaped curve. So multi-level planning ensures support, challenge, and growth for everyone without lowering expectations. So it's really informed and intentional design. So a quick poll here. That's going to be launched. Currently, how much time do you spend preparing lesson plans to meet the multi-level needs of your learners? So if you can select here, too little time, too much time, or just the right amount of time. No right answer here, just to see kind of where we're at now as far as how much time we're spending preparing lesson plans to meet the multi-level needs of your learners. Okay, so closing this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And let's see here. So time spent is about, it's about half of us too little time, okay, too much time, the other half, and just a few of us just about the right time. So that's good. No. So too little time, right, is probably for a reason, right? Because we're too busy. And too much time, well, that can be an issue too, because we're already really busy. So, it's something that we want to really figure out, what tools can we utilize? What tools can we leverage to still provide quality instruction, but not burn out, right? We need to protect ourselves. We need to make sure that we're energized, that we're engaged, that we're passionate, that we have the energy to observe and connect and be able to, address and be there for our learners and for ourselves, right? Professionally and personally. So it's really important that we look at it through that lens as, yes, instructional quality is important, but our personal and professional well-being is just as important. All right, thank you for your participation in that poll. So let's discuss some of the benefits of multi-level classes and how we can leverage a multi-level class to our students' advantage. Okay, so the benefits, right? Different levels, needs, perspectives, experiences, they can all create a dynamic, in class that creates an interesting and energized atmosphere, right? If we look at a multi-level class as an opportunities to do so. So I think that's one reason why we're so attracted to adult education and why we love it so much, is that you do have those differences of personalities, of perspectives, of experiences, even of skill levels, okay? And so we should look at multi-level classes as an advantage, okay? And not only as a challenge. So another benefit is that students can practice language, especially when we're talking about ESOL or literacy in these things. Students can practice language at different levels with different skills. For example, students can benefit from working with peers at the same or different levels, right? Lower level learners benefit from being challenged and from seeing language used at more advanced levels, while students at higher levels can benefit from reinforcement, building confidence, and can be challenged as needed, by asking them to go deeper and expand further. Multi-level classes can also motivate and push lower level students. I found that only having native level speakers or materials, right, as role models can be demotivating, as the bar is often perceived as being like out of reach or just too high. Learning from other English language learners who are more advanced but closer to their level can provide a more realistic and attainable goal that students can set for themselves. So I've seen this also used in materials where student generated material, student generated essays or podcasts are utilized for reading materials, right, and listening materials. All students can benefit from peer support. In my experience as an educator, many of our students come from, we can say, more kind of collectivist cultures, right, and societies, and they feel more, comfortable and even motivated when supporting peers in the classroom. So as teachers, it's really important to promote a classroom environment of peer support. Our students often appreciate and are accustomed to taking on a role where they can help others through their experience and their expertise. So this in turn builds trust and can promote a community, right? A community of teaching and learning where everyone in the classroom can help to support the learning of others. And I would say that this is really an important classroom community to build, as it builds that trust. It builds that comfort to take risks and knowing that everyone is there to support each other, right? So making that clear and intentional and explicit, I think is really important in our instruction as we are developing these kind of multi-level activities. Okay, so multi-level classrooms bring powerful opportunities, but they also present real challenges. So when learners are at different proficiency levels, instruction requires more intentional planning. So teachers must anticipate varying language needs, scaffold appropriately, design tasks that allow multiple, entry points, right? So that can take more time. Planning time is often limited, as we all know, which makes differentiation maybe feel overwhelming at first, right? How am I going to plan for these 3 different levels, okay, in my class? This is where structured routines and adaptable lesson frameworks become essential, and we'll discuss some of those here shortly. There's also a constant balance between flexibility and maintaining clear instructional expectations. So we want to meet learners where they are without lowering rigor or losing focus on standards and outcomes. Okay, so that can be challenging. And finally, adult instruction must remain relevant and practical. We know as adult educators that learners engage more deeply when content connects directly to real life goals and immediate application. So really the goal here is not perfection. It's not to create the perfect activity, day in, day out. I have found that, our students are so forgiving. If they see that we're doing our best, and that, hey, we make beautiful mistakes as well, that we're continuing engaged in our learning, they're very forgiving. So the goal isn't perfection, but rather it's really like intentional and purposeful design that allows learners to move forward. And for us teachers to gather the feedback needed to inform instruction as we all move forward together. Okay, I'm just looking at the chat here. Thank you. Yes, Harold, real world workplace model, mixed skill team like actual job sites. Great. Keep on, please, everyone. Share any kind of ideas or resources in the chat. So AI tools are most powerful when guided by your expertise and not used to replace it. Okay, so I'm going to be reinforcing that idea and that understanding that AI tools are there as an assistive, right, intelligence. okay? Not to replace us as teachers and as thinkers and as creators. And that's true for our learners as well. So when aligned to clear instructional goals, AI can significantly speed up idea generation, lesson drafting, and material creation. It can also help reduce planning time without sacrificing quality. AI can also support differentiation by generating level text, varied question types, sentence frames, and scaffolded activities tailored to different proficiency levels. Okay, just to name a few things that these kind of technologies can do. Importantly, when prompts are anchored in standards, objectives, and specific learning needs and goals of students, AI can really help us maintain alignment. Okay, I know it can be challenging when we're going to look at some standards and, you look at those matrices and it can at first kind of seem a little overwhelming, right? But this is where these kind of tools can really help us to make sure that our instruction is aligned with those standards, okay? So we can clearly see that in instruction. We can communicate that to administrators. And of course, most importantly, we can communicate that with our learners. So it really keeps instruction focused on outcomes rather than random activities. So the key takeaway here is that AI is a planning partner, right? Your professional judgment drives the direction. AI tools help you move faster and hopefully more efficiently. Okay, so we're gonna look at this high to eye process, right? Framework for supporting instructional planning. HII, human intelligence and interaction, plus AII, assistive or artificial intelligence. I like to call it assistive, interaction and intelligence. So one more poll here, if you would. So please answer this as true, false, or not sure, A, B, or C. I could use lesson planning frameworks and strategies to better support the needs of my multi-level classes. So let me know if that's something that you could use, some lesson planning frameworks and strategies to really support your needs, right? And the needs of your multi-level learners. I like these polls that allow me to take a little water break. All right, and closing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's look at the results. Okay, not surprised here. We all, of course, we could all benefit from these lesson planning frameworks and strategies. I mean, that's why we're all here, right? So we also have a not sure, and that's great too, okay? That's honest. So let's see. I know these kind of AI strategies are new, right? They're new to everybody, okay? I mean, we're all figuring it out. So the idea is to jump in and to start to use them, and hopefully some of the frameworks and strategies that I'll share here today can help you and guide you a little bit. And really, just as a starting point, okay? You are all intelligent experts. So, and you know better than anybody your needs and the needs of your learners. So don't look at this as something that is set in stone. Look at this as something that should be adapted to meet you and your learners' needs. Okay, so this is a framework that I'm developing here, and this is really reflects my experience with using AI, and as well as kind of what research-based frameworks are suggesting, right? And how we engage with these AI tools. So we can see that we can start here with human intelligence, all right? That's us, okay? So this is going from human intelligence to human interaction, then that informing assistive intelligence and assistive interaction. So let me back up here a little bit, okay? So this can be thought of as really like a modern extension of the Socratic method. So the Socratic approach relies on iterative questioning, a back and forth dialogue that really deepens. It's really structured. The Socratic method is meant to deepen critical thinking, to help us clarify assumptions and really to refine ideas in our understanding of things, right? So the high to I cycle works in the same way. So human intelligence initiates the thinking, okay? What are the goals? What are the contexts? What professional judgment do we bring to this? Okay, so that's what we're starting for. It starts right here. Okay, and we all do this. We do it when we're planning. We're doing it when we're driving and thinking about our work or how to solve problems. So really, that's where the human intelligence starts. And then we have human interaction, and I think that this is so important. Okay, have interactive discussions, plannings, talk shop, talk about your work, talk about your ideas. And this can be with teachers, this could be with learners, this could be with friends and family, talking about it, right? Talking about it. Oftentimes it's not so much even for like what you're getting in return, right? Any kind of feedback, but it's just to get it out there and, you know, even utilize other people as a soundboard. And then oftentimes we do get great feedback, right? And so this is really where we want to start, you know, human intelligence, you know, talking it out. And then we can engage in using artificial intelligence or assistive intelligence, right? And so this is where we're going to get into prompting using different kind of AI tools to really refine, right? Planning. So the human intelligence, human interaction, that's important to inform the AI of exactly what we're looking for. Okay, so I really suggest kind of don't skip the step there. Okay, but really try to do this. Use the human intelligence and human interaction, and then let that flow into the AI, the assistive intelligence. Okay, and then we have the assistive interaction. So, you know, question posing, refinement of what's produced. So don't take the first output as something that is a perfect, you know, result. Okay, this is the AI is just a partner. Okay, a partner in this. So it's really important for us to analyze whatever the output is to make sure that it's accurate, or that you want to kind of maybe, you know, you need to kind of correct any kind of information or provide additional information in order to further explore, you know, these tools and these strategies that AI prompts can generate. So again, right, the high to I cycle can help educators move from general ideas to instructional precision. So it allows us to take broad goals and turn them into clear, actionable learning activities. Through this iterative dialogue, we can analyze learner needs, strengths, goals, and proficiency levels. So if we can inform, you know, the AI, this can make the planning more intentional, right? What are the needs of our learners? What are their strengths? What are their goals? What are their proficiency levels? Informing all of this, the AI isn't going to know this, right, without us informing it. The cycle also supports matching activities to learner readiness, you know, to ensure appropriate challenge without, you know, overload or overwhelm. It also creates space to apply instructional frameworks and strategies rather than using AI for surface level tasks. So if we can inform, you know, through prompting, what are specific frameworks? What are research-based strategies that we want to make sure are being addressed in our planning? That's where, you know, we're going to need to bring our knowledge and expertise and really what we're learning and what we're researching to informing, right, these AI tools. And so most importantly, it strengthens clarity and alignment through revision. Each iteration sharpens objectives, refines tasks, and keeps instruction focused on meaningful outcomes. So one tool that can help us here is this AI checklist. Okay, so this is one checklist that I've made. I'm actually going to post it here in the chat so you all that are here live, okay, can have access to it. Let me see here. Okay, here it is. All right, so that's for you all. Let's take a look at this checklist together. Use this checklist before implementing AI generated lessons, activities, text, or assessment. So we're going to quickly go through this, but know that this is a tool that you can use. This is a tool that you can improve on. So, check accuracy and relevance, right? Are the facts relevant, right? And up to date? Does the content align with required standards? Is it relevant to your learner's real life context, right? If it's accurate but not relevant, engagement isn't going to be there with your learners. So we got to make sure that that's there. Clarity and language level. Are vocabulary, grammar appropriate for learners' proficiency levels? Is technical or academic language clearly defined? Are visuals, examples, or models included to support comprehension, right? So making sure that clarity is there to reduce cognitive overload. If it's not there, ask for it. Contextual sensitivity. Does the content reflect, real life experiences and perspectives, right? That's something that Harold mentioned there. Are examples appropriate for your classroom context, right? So respect builds trust, trust builds learning. So make sure that anything that's produced it takes into consideration your context, your learner's context. Instructional purpose. Is there a clear learning objective or clear learning objectives? And does the activity support those objectives? Are there real world tasks that promote transfer beyond the classroom? So, as we know, there's limited time in the classroom. So we really want to make sure that there are out of class activities, real world tasks, where students can apply what they're learning in the classroom out of the classroom with greater confidence, right? Reinforces these skills, this vocabulary, whatever they're working on, and applies it to real world tasks. So if there's no clear purpose, revise or ask for it. Engagement and motivation. Does the activity encourage participation and build confidence? Are communicative or interactive elements included? Are visual stories or relatable scenarios used, right? So these are all helpful to engage learners, to make sure that they're clear about things, to connect with the content in different ways, and of course, to build confidence, okay? And then that leads to differentiation and scaffolding. Are supports included for multi-level learners? Is there modeling before independent work? Are instructions simple and supported with demonstrations or examples? And then a couple more here. Formats. Is the format clear? Are audio and video materials, if those are generated, are they captioned or transcribed when needed? So, making sure that format is clear for our learners. And then finally, assessment and feedback. Are there checks for understanding? Can learners reflect or self-assess? Is teacher or peer feedback built into the lesson? Okay, so if you don't measure learning, you can't improve it. And so this is just as much as learners reflecting on their own learning, and teachers getting feedback about their instruction from teachers and ourselves in order so we can continue to improve. Really, the final reflective question before using AI generated content asks, does this reflect my personal judgment? Does this really reflect me, right? My voice, okay, my approach. Would I confidently use it in front of my learners and administrators? And if not, what's missing there, right? How can you humanize it? Oftentimes we'll need to do that, right? All the time I do that. Anytime that I make AI generated content, I go through it and I change things, okay? I change it to make sure it matches kind of my experience, my perspective, my voice. So that's where these tools can be time savers. But with that time saved, we also need to spend a little bit of that time saved to make sure that we're analyzing things and that we're ensuring alignment and quality. Okay, so let me know in the chat if you feel like this kind of checklist could be helpful to you. And now that you have the checklist, make sure to download it and feel free to share it. Okay, great. You're on it. Okay, so prompting with purpose. Let's get into it here. Okay, so a couple of things that to describe really what are the characteristics of effective prompts. So effective prompts are, of course, the foundation of strong AI supported planning. So the quality of the output depends on the clarity of the input. I'm going to repeat that. The quality of the output depends on the clarity of the input. So clear prompts produce aligned, differentiated, and instructionally sound results. So they're specific, right? Intentional and outcome driven. Instead of vague requests, effective prompts clearly define the lesson focus and what learners should be able to do. So you all know this, right? You know what the lesson topic is. They include measurable objectives, identified learner levels, and relevant standards to ensure alignment and rigor. So if you don't know or need help, right, in developing those measurable objectives, those relevant standards, we're going to do that, okay? You don't feel like you need to be a master instructional designer to come up with the best objectives that align with standards. This is where we can utilize the tools to help us in that way. But you can kind of inform to kind of start to think about, what could be those objectives? What do we want learners to be able to do at the end of the lesson? And so effective prompts also provide context, such as the materials available. So, what are you using? What resources are you using? What are the classroom realities? Okay. What are the dynamics in the classroom? What are where's the setting? I know some of us work in correctional settings. So, informing it for that and knowing then that can present a different set of dynamics that should be addressed in planning. Also, what are the learner's strengths and needs? Okay, you know what that is. And if you don't know, then you should find out. So, really try to always be gathering that information. What are learner strengths? What motivates them? What engages them? What do they bring to the classroom? Experiences, right? Languages, talents, right? All these kind of things, their personalities. So the response is really realistic and usable and really personalized, customized to meet your needs. And of course, effective instructional practices, we can use instructional frameworks to guide how we want to organize, present, scaffold, and manage learning. So with all this, you can see that strong prompts are detailed and purposeful. They guide the AI with clarity while leaving room for refinement through iteration. Okay, so we're going to put this into action now. So we've seen what makes a prompt effective. Now we'll see what it looks like in practice, or what it could look like. All right, again, this is for us. This is a starting point. This is really to inspire you all to get your creative juices flowing, and to match that with your understanding of your learners to create something that really meets your needs and your learners' needs. So as we review the next slides, let's try to notice the clarity, right? The alignment, the intentionality behind each example. Also keep in mind that checklist, right? To identify areas for further refinement. All of the following examples are, again, starting points that you can modify to meet your learners' instructional needs. Then this is where thoughtful prompting turns into powerful planning. Okay, so the following is an example of prompting for reasoning through language arts, okay, or RLA. So the resources we're using to inform the prompt are going to be a lesson plan template. I'm going to share that with you in a moment. And actually, you all have this available to you, this handout that's going to be, it might have already been provided, but it definitely will be provided underneath the recording of the webinar. So this handout that we're going to look at here is available to you. We're also going to be using the IPDAE RLA standards matrix. Okay, so let me just kind of show you. If you go to the IPDAE site, if you look here at AE, Adult Education Toolbox, you're going to see this AE curriculum matrix. And so you got to make sure you're logged in to access it. But you can see here that IPDAE's provided these FDOE approved standards. Okay, so that's for math, for reading, language arts, and for ESOL. Okay, and once you kind of click on those, you'll see that they'll download these different matrices that you can utilize. Okay, so no worries about reading these in detail. Those are available to you. But it has the NRS levels and these different strands, okay, for each area. So we're going to use that. Also in the blue box here, you see information that you, the teacher, provides. So this is what we discussed here. Don't feel like you need to provide everything, as much as you can. So what's the lesson topic? Lesson objectives if you have them. If you don't, AI is really good at producing these. Student levels, okay? That would need to be from you as well. RLA standards addressed, okay? So you might not need to provide these, but you can. But if you don't, want to do that, AI does a good job at doing that. Of course, like any materials and resources that you are going to be utilizing, provide that information. And additional details, right? Again, learner strengths, needs, goals, the setting, okay, of your classroom, any kinds of opportunities or constraints that need to be taken into consideration. And so in the orange box here, we have, for each stage of the lesson plan template, provide detailed description and activities that include scaffolding for the indicated proficiency levels, right? So this is addressing these different student levels so we can differentiate instruction, okay? So a scaffolded instruction. Also include a brief analysis of what the teacher could learn from the student feedback to improve the lesson. So this is kind of predicting how learners may respond to the activity to allow for further kind of preparation and iteration. And then 3 practical suggestions for other teachers who may want to teach the same lesson. So this provides kind of insight on how to implement the lesson and prepares sharing of the activities, either with your colleagues, your administrators, really strengthening the kind of rationale, right, of how and why the activity is aligned with the standards and the needs of your students. Okay. So I'm going to have to multitask here a little bit. So we're going to go here to the handbook, okay? And so I'm going to scroll through the handbook. And you're going to see our workshop objectives, some key terms here. You're going to see that high to eye cycle model. And then we're going to have these prompts here. Okay, so I've already kind of put this in here as like in these brackets, but you can change any of this information. Okay, so this is the prompt here. Act as if you're a professional adult literacy educator. Use the attached lesson plan template. So I'm going to show you where that is here in a moment. The IPDAE RLA standards matrix, I just showed you that, and the provided details to create a comprehensive lesson plan for an adult reading literacy class, okay, for each stage of the lesson template. And I already went over this. This is some additional information you can request, okay? So I'm gonna bring this up here. I'm gonna use just ChatGPT for the purpose of this, but you can use anything, right? Copilot, Claude AI, whatever you like. I'm gonna put that in here, that prompt, just copy and paste. And then I'm gonna add some files here. So I'm going to add the RLA standards matrix. And I'm also going to add a template. So this one here, this is going to be the I do, we do, you do lesson plan template. And if we see here, so there was the prompt. These are the different prompts. Okay, but I'm going to scroll down, and this is where you can see these lesson plan templates. This gives you a little bit of understanding of what the lesson plan template is. And then here it has a lesson plan template that you can copy, okay, and utilize. All right, so that's what I'm going to use here for this purpose here, this I do, we do, you do. Again, providing this kind of lesson plan template really helps us to go further to provide that structure and that effective instructional approach to really scaffold and guide learners through the lesson, as well as to engage learners and learner engagement kind of activities. And then, as we saw here in the prompt, to elicit feedback, right? To get students to give feedback on the activity and to really analyze what could be some potential challenges here. So This is how I created the prompt. You can modify this prompt as you'd like, okay? But this is just an example here. So coming back here to ChatGPT, I'm going to click this button here now that's going to generate this prompt. Okay, so below is a fully developed standards aligned adult reading literacy lesson plan using the I do, we do, you do template and aligned to the Florida Adult Education RLA standards matrix. So here now it's providing the output, okay? And this is where we start to have to kind of utilize like a critical lens here, right? Of what do we need to kind of iterate or what do we need to refine? So I didn't put in the level, so it just kind of did it for me. So I just wanted to show you that here first, just so you can see that even if you don't put anything, it's just going to kind of provide you with some content, assuming that it's a multi-level class, okay? So lesson topics, identifying the central idea and supporting details and informational text. Again, I didn't put any kind of lesson topic in there. If you do, it'll be aligned to that lesson topic. Lesson objectives, by the end of the lesson, students will be able to identify the central idea of informational text, explain how specific details support the central idea, summarize the text using key details, okay? So you can see that these objectives are pretty good, okay? They've helped me actually kind of get better at my own creation of objectives. And then they align with these student levels, right? These NRS levels, and then it pulls them out from these standards from the RLA matrix, okay? So listen, that's pretty amazing. As someone who used to do this manually, having some help in doing this is really important. Now, it's important for me to kind of do my due diligence in making sure that those are accurate. So I would look at this and then come back to this RLA matrix and make sure that that's accurate, okay? And then it has materials and resources. Again, I didn't inform this, so it just created, okay, some materials and resources. But if you have some materials and resources, you can include those, but then also ask what could be some additional ideas, you know, around materials and resources. Learner strengths and needs. Again, I didn't put this in here, but it's just assuming. So it would be better if you put what those learner strengths and needs are. And then it has it organized it within this lesson plan of I do, we do, you do, right? So it has an introduction, a timing here, a lesson overview, instructions to activate prior knowledge. Okay, so you can see how it's really applying these, you know, best practices in effective instruction. But because we informed it to do so, we provided that lesson plan template. We provided it with that framework, okay, that's really going to like guide it and teach the AI tool what we really need. So it's really up to us to kind of guide it in that way, and in order for it to output and generate the most quality material and content possible. So we have the I do, right? And again, I'm just going to do a soul scroll here, but you can see scaffolding by level. Okay, level 2, teacher provides sentence frame. Level 3, students help suggest central idea. Level 4, students evaluate whether central idea is explicit or implied. Okay, so if that's not enough kind of scaffolding, or if you want more scaffolding, you just ask, just say, hey, you know, can you give me more detail and more, you know, specific activities? And can you create the activities? If you want it to kind of have a go at creating activities for you for these different levels, you can do that as well, okay? So you can just kind of do that here by asking, you know, create, you know, activities for this, or give me additional ideas. We do guided practice, so students read next section in pairs. So the task here, highlight 3 supporting ideas, complete a graphical organizer, draft central ideas together. So if you want it to create that graphical organizer, you can ask it to do so, and it can support you in doing that. If you know what kind of graphic organizer you want, you can clarify that as well. Okay, and you can see here differentiation. So level 2, the expectation is provide partially completed organizer. Level 3, provide sentence starter. Level 4, ask them to justify their central idea choice orally. something that often I do as well for this differentiation is, or really just for like all students, is to provide, generate a model example. So you can say, okay, can you provide a model example, of this graphic organizer, okay, for learners at these different levels. So you can do that as well, again, to provide model examples that aren't too, above their level, but are kind of level appropriate. Okay, so that's something that we can do as well. And then you do independent practice. This is highly guided practice. So students complete multiple choice questions, moderately guided practice. So this is something that was indicated in the lesson plan to kind of have this highly guided, moderately guided to free practice. So this is a scaffolding approach. So students complete multiple choice questions. So that's highly guided practice. Moderately guided practice, students independently write one central idea statement and list 3 supporting details using the sentence frame. So again, if you want to, iterate and provide more ideas for, these different kinds of guided practice, you can do that as well. And then free practice, right? Students write 4 to 5 sentences summarizing the full article across these different levels, all right? So then the evaluation section here is, assessment, right? So it can have a summary paragraph, okay? Or it can have an exit ticket, okay? Let's say you have a better exit ticket idea, or you want great other exit ticket ideas, right? You can ask that, say, hey, can you generate additional exit tickets with this purpose, right? Maybe you want learners to engage in metacognition of how did the activity benefit for them, right? How can they use content from the activity outside of class? What is something that's still challenging them? Okay, so don't take this at face value. Continue to kind of work through this and think about, use your brilliance, okay, to make it better. All right, and then feedback, provide immediate verbal and written feedback. Okay, clear central idea statements, overly broad or too narrow responses. So reflection, ask students, how will this strategy help you outside of the classroom? Okay, so you can see that then in this analysis, it generated teacher reflection from student feedback potentially. So I found that this is kind of to be useful to see kind of like, help me predict in a sense, right? And prepare. So some students confuse the topic with central idea, continue modeling sentence level clarity. So maybe that's true, and maybe there needs to be more modeling here of sentence level examples. Level 2 students rely heavily on sentence frames, maybe gradually remove scaffolds, okay? And level 4 students benefit from deeper analysis, add author's purpose in the next lesson, okay? So how to challenge learners at these different levels. So continue think aloud modeling, use of graphic organizers, maybe modify, more practice distinguishing main idea versus detail, increase time GED style practice. So this could be interesting to after you utilize this example, or excuse me, after you implement this activity and you ask for feedback and you analyze the activity yourself, how accurate was this, right? And so it's really important to know that the more, I would say like try to pick one AI tool, whether it be ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude AI, because the more you work with the tool, the more you're training it, okay, to understand what your needs are, what your learners' needs are, and your feedback, your iteration is going to continue to make it better, okay? It remembers, okay, all the previous prompting that you've done, and you're both really kind of like improving and learning together, okay? So try to keep that in mind as well. So advice for other teachers, model your thinking explicitly. Adult learners benefit from hearing how skilled readers process text. Don't skip the read aloud, okay? Or the think aloud. Use color coding. 2 highlighter color central ideas versus details dramatically improves clarity for struggling readers. Differentiate without separating the class. Use layered prompts so that all students work together with the same text, but at different cognitive depths. And then it's said, if you would like, I can now convert this into a document, align with GED assessment targets, modify it for ESOL learners, okay, if you have ESOL learners there, add a standards alignment chart table, create handouts. Just tell me the setting and the levels. So this is where you would continue to iterate, okay, in order to refine the output, okay? And I'm just looking here that, oh, thank you. Yes, Kim, the handbook is available for download in the webinar activities found for today's event. And there's a link. Thank you, IPDAE, for providing that. And then Martha says, wow, I've never considered using ChatGPT to help with lesson planning. That's awesome. Thanks, Martha. You're awesome. So yeah, that's the idea, Martha, right? Is just diving in there and using it, okay? And the purpose of today's session is really to kind of give you a gateway, right? And an example, a model example. We all need model examples, right? Model examples are a start, okay? They can see what's possible, and then it's up to you to take it beyond, okay? So you'll see here that I'm not going to go through these, but I just wanted you to see that they're there. So you see that there's also, prompt examples for ESOL. So very similar prompt framework. Act as if you're a professional adult ESOL educator. Use the attached lesson plan template. Okay, and so and the adult ESOL standards matrix to provide a detail. So again, providing the details. Again, this analysis. Again, you can change this if you'd like. All right, but you can use the ESOL standards matrix this time. And maybe you want to use a different lesson plan template. Okay, so that was the I do, we do, you do. Excuse my scroll, but there's another one here. This one's excellent. The 5E, engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. That's another lesson plan template that we provided for you in the handbook. So you can kind of, utilize this again, as I did. I uploaded it to the AI to provide it with that structure. And then there's also this other lesson plan framework is PPPP, prepare, present, practice, and perform. So that's another style, okay? So you can mix and match, right? So having this kind of like structure is really gonna benefit, I think, your instruction and your learners to kind of know what the organization is. And to address these different aspects, right? So we can see things like instruction, activities, real work connections, differentiation. This is the highly guided practice, moderately guided practice, free practice. Okay, so how can students show you what they learned? How can you apply differentiation to allow students to demonstrate learning? So of course, this can all be utilized without AI, right, as well. And I even recommend that just to kind of like, that's where the human intelligence and the human interaction part of that framework goes. If you can kind of write notes, here, talk about them with a colleague, over tea or coffee or over lunch, or just, share it with someone that you can share ideas with, this kind of continues to iterate. And then, you use the AI to say like, okay, this is an informed prompt. What do you got for me? Okay, and then you can start to engage and iterate with the AI tool. Okay. And so lastly here, there's also a prompt for GED. Act as if you're a professional adult GED educator. Use the attached lesson plan template and the IPDAE mathematics standards matrix and provide details to create a comprehensive lesson plan for an adult GED class. And so a quick recap here. Really, again, we explored how AI and web-based tools support standards-aligned multi-level lesson planning, and specifically in adult education. Examine the high-to-eye instructional cycle, really emphasizing the role of you all, your expertise, okay? Identified key principles of effective and iterative prompting, and reviewed practical examples for ESOL, ABE, RLA, and GED to support instructional differentiation. So again, as our friends here at IPDAE have informed you all, there's the link to the handbook, okay? Choose one tool from the handout. Try it, all right? Try it with your next lesson and build and learn from there, all right? So we don't accomplish anything from just, on the sidelines. It's about jumping in, trying our best, learning from our beautiful mistakes, okay? Learning from the process and really training whatever AI tool that you are working with to make sure that it is meeting the needs of your instruction and your learners. Thank you all so much for your presence here today. Thank you to IPDAE and to the Florida Department of Education for really making these professional learning opportunities possible. So if you have any questions or want to continue to kind of talk about these ideas, feel free to contact me. And please give IPDAE your feedback, okay, on how this webinar has supported your needs, your professional instruction needs. So as you're doing that, tomorrow there is a webinar Wednesday, okay, February 18th at 3 p.m. on Essential Algebra Skill 1, okay, focusing on substitution. So that sounds essential, right? And it sounds fascinating. So tune in tomorrow if you're teaching math and algebra. Tomorrow, webinar Wednesday, February 18th at 3 p.m. Thank you all so much and wishing you just a wonderful week.